my questions and you guys answering them. So if at any point like the conversation totally veers away from anything that I asked, or like someone else wants to jump in, like that is all good. But just to provide a little bit of structure, I figured I would like come up with some things that I thought might help all of us to know. So I was wondering if people could just let me know, like, if they have different types of chapters. Like for us, we have chapters, but also on the portal, we want to have chapters in progress. So like schools that are trying to become chapters, and we're sort of thinking about how to organize like different resources for different people and like what they need. And so I was wondering if people had experience doing things like that on their portals.
I can speak on that. Our chapter launch system is 100% on the platform. I mean, we have a application process that happens off the platform, but once people are on the platform, that's where they're starting their process to becoming a chapter. Once they complete their training, they are then a chapter. Gotcha. And they will not receive a chapter unless their community will not receive one until they get there. Is that, yeah. I assumed everybody did it like kind of that way, but that's very interesting to know that that's probably not the process. There's some formal process going on behind the scenes, I guess, with other people. So that's cool to me.
Yeah, so we have been like, up until recently, our whole like becoming a chapter process has been not on the platform. And so we're only just now trying to get it on there. But that's really helpful to hear that you do it all online in that way.
And like to speak to kind of our process for it, so we use categories and roles to make that transition. So, and also team tags to a certain extent. So we have a category, or we have a role of like a launching chapter, a director in training, and then we use badges so that once they've finished the tracks that are the training tracks, one of the badges, when they get it at the end of the last track, that then changes their role to being a director. So then we can assign certain content to the role of directors in training. That's the launch content. And then we have separate content that's for directors once they've launched for like active chapters. And then that's associated with the director role. And we can also like group teams. We have each chapter as a team. And so then we can group them by team tags if we want to. So like, here's all the chapters that launched in February. They have a team tag of February launch. Yeah, June A, June B, June C. And then we also are using categories to group the content, the tracks that we have. So our training tracks are in the category of, yeah, there we go. We have chapter launch original, and I just last night finished chapter launch revamp. And then we have some reference tracks category. And then the next step leadership training is going to be content available to our directors once they've completed their training. So that's how we've been organizing it.
I just want to, so this is what I've been obviously sharing my screen for Free for Schools content. And I actually really like the way they've designed their badges. They have a pretty elaborate, I would say, like startup training process, right? It's 9 steps. It's very robust. There's a lot that these leaders, there's a lot these leaders have to set up before they can invite parents in. And I just like that basically, like if you were to go to any one leader's page, you can see like where they're stuck, how many tracks they've completed. I love also your guys' colors. It's so cute. And then that idea, right, of like the final badge is like a badge of badges that confirms the completion of the rest of badges 1 through 9, and that gives them an automatic role upgrade and switches their dashboard from a, I think you have that here, right, from a director in training. So I don't know if you guys already have switched, maybe not director content, but
we're just starting to build out our resources finally. Yeah. So it will as of like probably next week.
Great.
Does anyone else have anything they want to chime in on that? Cool. Well, another thing that I was wondering about is if anyone uses the Salesforce integration option on the portal and what their experience has been with that.
I don't think anybody here has integrated to Salesforce. Actually, the first person who's integrated to Salesforce is Net Impact, and they're just working on it. I actually have a call with them, and maybe right after this call to talk about how it's going. But they would be like, if you're interested, I can put you in contact with them to learn more about that. And
yeah, that'd be great. It's something we're thinking about, but probably not going to do right away. So absolutely no rush.
Nice.
And do people see a lot of engagement on their discussion board with chapters? Like, we would ideally like our discussion board to be someplace where chapters can share their best practices and like brainstorm solutions to problems they encounter. Do people see that happening on their platforms?
I can also comment on that. We see a lot of people posting like reflections, but to be honest, and I think I've asked this to Holly, I have no way to know how much engagement there is without going. So I don't think many people are communicating or contacting each other or commenting with each other, but I also don't really know a good way to evaluate that or to without just going and looking at the discussion feeds. And because we have over 300 people on there, like sort of actively doing stuff, and then all these teams that I don't know that answer, but our goal was for people to build on conversations that were happening there and ask each other questions.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't know if anybody else wants to add something actually.
I'm happy to add a little bit about Chala for Hunger's discussion board. Can you all hear me okay? I think my internet was going out a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we have some specific asks that we ask our students to post on a discussion board with. So one of them could be, like, as an example, we ask all of our student chapters and leaders if they're able to create different like documents that they then give out on campus. So like a resource guide about the different resources and support systems for students on their campus. And then we specifically ask that they post that to Marketplace. And that's like a way that we do get some discussion going is through those specific asks, because then they're going to the discussion board as like a landing place for that. And we definitely like are plugging the discussion board in the Marketplace when we're talking to students. So just like consistently reminding people that that's a place that we want interaction to happen.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think we were having a lot of trouble with the same, like, it's just really crowded in the discussion feed because of all the action responses. So I just started like changing the view settings on different tracks so that like not everything is showing up for everybody in the Marketplace. Like it's hard, you can't really tell in Talis's example because she has like admin privileges and can see everything, but like different students will only see the things that are like most relevant to what they're doing. And I think that can really help like increase conversation just to like make it more focused on what people are actually doing and like hopefully participating in the future.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. And something I wanted to add is that I think for the only organizations that have had an easy time seeing a very lively discussion section are strangely like international organizations, people who have like 45 countries and like Latin America and Africa and all places. For some reason, there's like a lot of like eagerness for connection or online, like engaging online in these kinds of tools. I don't know if like here in the States we are like overwhelmed with social media more so than in other places. However, I don't think, I mean, we haven't given up on the idea that the platform could be a place for members to come continue having conversations. I think most of you or some of you were in the conversation we had last week where we were demoing our groups and pathways new feature that we're working on. And our thought is that potentially this new feature can help drive more focused conversation. For one, because there's going to be also a chatting option, and it's going to be like a more, just like people, you have a group, maybe say everybody's going to use it differently, but say of startup chapter leaders or chapter treasurers from across the country, or a committee working on a marketing campaign that y'all are launching, or an advocacy campaign that is being launched nationally, stuff like that. So I think part of the hope is that this, like, basically this is the wireframe of a group frame. You have a title, a description, your host, so you can more directly also connect with like who is providing support for this group. You can see who the members are going to be, what events this group has coming up just for the group, and then like a series of tracks that you might have assigned to them. And then the second tab is going to be basically like a feed, a conversation feed, right? So like I wonder, for example, for Free Forest School, like if you guys had a private, because these are also going to be private groups, like private conversations with like just chapter directors, would they engage more here, or same, for everybody else in this call? So we're certainly committed to continuing to try new ways of driving up that conversation, right? Because it just makes so much sense that the wisdom exists within the leaders of a movement, right? Like, how can we make sure that they're connecting with one another, knowing that they're super busy, and knowing that we're also asking them to do a ton of other tasky things, right? Come here, send us this report, finish this training. And I think ultimately, this is currently how a lot of people relate to the platform, is like, oh, I have all these things to finish, and they just go finish those things.
Can I build on that question, sort of, Melody? Like, how many of you guys have other communication tools outside of the platform? And I'm going to give a tiny bit of background, because I've been having this question forever as it relates to chapter management. But after our chapters launch, we create a Facebook group for them that we're the admin of, but they also get to be moderators on. And so we have 180 Facebook groups that we monitor and manage to a certain extent. And then we have a central facilitator forum on Facebook, and we have a central director forum on Facebook. And so we have tons of communication there, and we want all of that to eventually be on the platform. Is anybody managing their chapters exclusively on the platform, not on an off platform? And if so, how are you doing that? Like connecting with just teams? Does anybody do it? And if they are, they're only connecting obviously to a leadership of those teams or communities that you have. Does that make sense?
We don't have any like Facebook groups per se. People have asked for that, and we've sort of said no, because like we're trying to make that the portal, I guess. But we just we have hotline calls is what we call them. And so like every week we are having like one-on-one calls with chapter leaders. But there's no other place for like chapter leaders to talk to each other. If that's sort of what you're asking.
That is one thing. The other thing is, how are you managing your chapters doing what it is that you hope that they're doing outside of the portal, besides just directly reporting to you, like through phone calls or emails, or reporting on the portal?
At least for Food Recovery Network, we really don't have anything else. It's just like they can text us or email us or call us. But that's what we're hoping will work with the portal, is that it'll be more possible for us to have like step-by-step updates, like as they're doing things more regularly.
Khala for Hunger, would you like to share a little bit about your guys' chapter management?
Sure. Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm like missing something that you're looking for, but in terms of like collecting data or sharing resources with our chapters, we do that almost exclusively through Marketplace at this point. And if not through Marketplace, then like direct emails and texts. We have a lot of spaces where we embed like Google Forms for reporting. And then like whenever we're following up with folks, we just tell them to like go to the Marketplace for everything. Like that's kind of our goal this year, is to just more directly have that be the ask for all of the things that we're looking for from students. Yeah, like Talis is pulling up one now. So like we have different systems and they're tagged to the people who are like responsible for reporting them. So we have like a president role, a treasurer role, like an advocacy chair role, but like, so those folks have it on their dashboards and they know that those are the things that they're supposed to be completing, and it's part of the training for their role to be submitting those reports. Do we have 100% of chapters reporting? No, but like I think it's definitely helping. Yeah, Facebook didn't really work for us for things like that. I don't think folks are really, like, especially the younger folks we're working with, I don't think they're using Facebook the same way anymore. And now that we're expanding to community chapters, we have like all of our parent volunteers and staff members at those organizations with the same role. And we just tried to keep it really simple in terms of the way that we laid it out for them. So there was like a track that's just like for one specific event, and all of the things for that event are in there. And they see like, we have like 4 specific events every year. They're all outlined like 1, 2, 3, 4. You can go through and just like walk through it at your own pace. And is there anything you want to add?
No, I think, yeah, just echoing what Ellie said. I think the only other way, I guess, is like a lot of like Instagram is also like another really good social media platform that our chapters are pretty active on. But again, like we're just redirecting people back to the Marketplace for everything, whether it's posting questions or doing reports, gets people more involved on that platform.
Are you guys still managing advisors on the platform? Chapter advisors? Hannah and Ellie?
Yeah, we are. We have a different staff member who manages advising, but so our advisors are like volunteers who are doing some like individual mentoring of chapters. And the way that the person who manages it set it up is that it's a monthly system. So every month when folks log into the Marketplace, they see like a new track with specific things for that month. So like right now, there's like a February, or there's a March track up. I know what month it is. So it has like all the specific asks for March just in one spot. And again, I think that just, it makes it really simple so that folks don't have to navigate a lot of different pages or go through a lot of different tracks to get the information they need. It's just like one stop, 4 asks. Hooray.
Mm.
So what are like tips, or, you know, I'm totally negative Nancy kind of girl, but you know, how are you enforcing, or how are you encouraging people to do these things? Is there like punitive things if they don't do this stuff? How are you, is there like probationary periods? From like, we have reporting that needs to happen. We have things we want people to read.
While we're sitting here holding our Trace Jalapenos vigil, we're ready to help anybody.
Oh, I think we lost Irene, but Ellie and Hannah, do you want to elaborate on how you guys drive engagement up on the platform?
What?
Ooh, I think Hannah could provide a lot of specific details about
Is that a point of your daily existence?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk a little bit about that. So my role specifically is very much being the point person for our chapter leaders and our students. So when we do have a new type of report out, that needs to be done by a certain point, I'll follow that up with emails and texts and calls based on like a progression of getting to the deadline. A feature that we have been using that has been pretty successful though is marketplace direct messaging, because when you message somebody, at least on our platform on the marketplace, they get an email that will alert them, but they can also respond right on the marketplace. So if you hyperlink something that's right in the marketplace, they're already on that platform. So it's just like all in one place. So we've been experimenting with that and see some success. We also ask all of our chapters at the beginning of the year to sign a chapter agreement. And in that agreement are some, like, you're going to donate your money as we're like also a philanthropic organization. So people are expecting at the beginning of the year what kinds of things are going to come with their roles and with being a chapter, like putting on one event per year or per semester, donating at the end of the semester, things like that. So none of what we're following up with people would come as like a surprise necessarily. And definitely giving people a lot of warning before something happens. So we have this semester and this past half of the year, we had different week-long initiatives where we were asking chapters to participate on social media and on their own campuses in different ways. But we were really trying to start the word about that at least like a month before, and then being really strategic about who in the chapter that we were outreaching to. So were we going to start with outreach in an email form, in a text form, to the leader of a chapter or somebody who is a treasurer, and depending on the initiative and the ask, we would then have like a timeline of who we're outreaching to build on, instead of just like overloading people with reminders.
Great. Mike, I want to make room. I don't know if you want to share about your eye-to-eyes process at this point.
Yeah, we usually, we also run into the issue where we're asking students to post kind of all over the place. But we definitely want to move that more into the platform, where we do have a couple of Facebook groups, and students have Instagram channels for their chapters, and then also on the platform. So I think we're gonna forego the Facebook groups next year and really focus on students using the platform. But we mainly use it for like weekly to-dos and things that they have to do for their chapter every week. And then the big part of what we do and how we utilize the chapter or the platform is for our big campaign in February, which is around striking out the stigma of having a learning disability or ADHD. And that's when students are doing different activities and really posting on the platform a lot.
One more.
That's great. Thanks, Mike. Melody, do you have other questions on your list you want to lead us through? It's so cool, by the way, Mike, to see all of the fun campaigns your students are working on.
The memes are pretty funny, our stigma fighting.
The memes, let me see.
Right up top, you had it like third from the top, or fourth from the top. Create stigma fighting.
Oh, that's hilarious. What a great idea. Oh my gosh, that's great.
Seeing all of those makes me like really hopeful that if we start doing more on the platform besides just our training, people will realize that this is something they need to be checking all the time. Because I think once they're done with their training, they think, okay, I'm done with that. I never need to go back to that. And it's really hard to remind them, even, you know, the amount of time I respond to someone asking a question, I'm like, oh, well, that was in your training. You can go back and look at it. They're like, what? I can go look at that stuff? And I was like, like, go use it.
That's so funny. Yeah, I'm curious for Free for a School, once also you start bringing in further content, right? Like, what does it look like for active chapters to share those pictures or share reports or whatever deliverables you guys might come up with for chapters? I think it'll hopefully provide more continuity, right, for after finishing leader training.
Yeah, no, I'm going to start doing some of our communication through the platform, like our participant surveys and our requests for volunteers and stuff. I'm going to try to experiment with what kind of response we get to that directly from that. The feature, if you email a whole group, it's now only responding to you. It's no longer a free-for-all, reply-all.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't used it since, because there was too many times where I was like, that I can't go through
It's
that.
too stressful. Yeah, so now you have reply all versus reply.
On the user side, we can't default to that though when we send a message. Okay.
Not at the moment, but that's I actually hadn't thought about that. To give you the option of what you want to default responses to.
Okay.
I think I was muted before when you asked if I had more questions. I didn't realize.
But just keep talking.
I have some more.
Great.
I was wondering if people use points and sort of like if they feel that that's a good strategy to get people more involved on the portal, or if it hasn't worked. Just people's general thoughts on that.
We do use points for different actions, and actually that is an incentivizing tactic that we use. So especially we'll have people email us to get like different swag items. So we have like shirts and stickers and like phone back case wallet things. And so what we'll do is say, that's great. Yeah, you can definitely get some of those. And you can do that by going on the marketplace, and we have different actions they can complete and different trainings that will get them points. And they can either do that individually or they can put their team points together to get like a bigger prize. And that seems to be working for us.
Even though they're not here, the other, I think mostly Challah for Hunger and Feel Good are the only organizations that give out stuff through the platform. So Feel Good's the other one, and they give out, I think, between $700 to $3,000 a year to chapters for chapter investments on their enterprise. And I know for them it's very rewarding, but it's also, it definitely keeps engagement high. And yeah, so they manage, right? Like they get stuff similar to Challah. I don't know if your chapters do reimbursements in any way, but you could also use points to handle reimbursements of stuff that you can then process. The inventory management system for prices is fairly robust. You can set up there's lots of ways in which you can set up controls to not run out of budget, either having like a chapter budget that they can't spend over, having like limits of how much stuff you have so you don't overpromise things, and then when they run out, they disappear from the store. It is obviously work, right? Because you're managing, as you know, Hannah, right? Like you're managing inventory, you're sending people stuff across the country and stuff like that. But if you're accounting for that, and the other thing is, like, if you have a budget anyway where students are getting, like a lot of organizations get, like, give their students a start of the year package with some t-shirts and some materials for their program, like that's just, budget that you can think about. Could we repurpose some of this budget to reward participation on the platform, or like basically, right, to have them, they're already doing all the things, right? So it's more like telling you that they've done the things they're supposed to be doing. In the past, there was a program that used to give out like pizza party coupons for, oh, you've submitted your like end of semester report. Great, have a end of semester party. Like here's a coupon from Domino's to have like a pizza party with your team and stuff like that. What else, Melody? What else should we talk about?
Sorry, I thought I heard someone trying to get into my house, which is why I was
Oh
like,
no.
confused. But no one
That's
came in. So
terrifying.
I might have to jump that in a second. But I was also wondering what people did in terms of coordinators and like having coordinator roles and what that looked like for like managing their communities.
Well, I want to know that question. I don't know the answer. I want to hear it.
Khala, do you guys use coordinators for advisors? Do you use that role?
No, we don't use them.
I think that's a feature that's not very used at all. And we think that the main reason why, let me show you here what coordinators versus not advisors, admins. We think that the main reason could probably be a couple. One is that coordinators cannot create content. And I think that's been feedback that we received, that if coordinators could create content, it would be much easier to have like, for example, if you have mentors or regional advisors, if they could create, say, like a track for the team that or the series of teams that they're working with, and give out like specific to-dos for those teams, that feature would be used more. And the other one is that it's actually hard, like on the platform right now, you have no idea if you're a student or a member who your coordinator is, who your mentor is. So that's part of the reasons why we're bringing into teams pages and groups pages the idea of like very quickly knowing who is there for you for direction or support. So yeah, I mean, feel free to interrupt me here anytime, but this is, I don't know if any of you have seen this page before. Oops, there we go. But yeah, like basically like a coordinator has access to the back end, but like not to the configuration section, not to team tags. They have access to view teams, but no access to editing, deleting, or adding points to any existing team. They can only view the members of the teams that have been assigned to them, right? So the idea with coordinators is that you assign them to certain teams. So they can view those people, but they cannot change the team of those people. They can change the role, but they cannot add points.
Can they approve?
They can approve, yes.
And they can respond via like private message or,
yes.
And can they add members?
I
feel like we looked into this a long time ago.
I think they can.
And coordinators are, I think with ours, you couldn't be a coordinator, because coordinator is a role, right?
Yeah.
So you can't be a coordinator and a chapter director.
No, actually you can. A coordinator is just an admin privilege thing, whereas a role is like a front end content permission thing. They can, so another thing coordinators can do, which actually for Free for School, this might be helpful, is approving and rejecting posts, because you guys do a lot of that. So I don't know, Melody, how much you guys would be, so there's a feature, right, by which if somebody submits a reflection, you have an admin has to approve it in order for it to be approved and for it to count as completed. So if you do that, like that could be a way to help out with that bottleneck. And then, yeah, like very limited access to prices, very limited access to badges other than viewing. So this is an area where basically I think we should just listen to, in an ideal world, what would you want a coordinator role to do? What would be helpful?
Well, I have a question as it relates to maybe how goes back to the original conversation of this call. We have directors who are training, and then we have these things called facilitators that we're also going to start training. is everybody equal on your platform or on your chapter's team, or are there different types of people? Because we want down the road, we want a central person, a central director to basically manage their team on the platform. And is other people already doing that, where you as an admin is not that person? Man, I'm going in circles here. Do other people do that? You might know that better than you understand my question, right?
I think so. So by a person, like basically you want a team leader to manage their team, right?
I don't want to manage the 65 facilitators that are going to get trained for Austin. I want a main person who's a director to manage that team. I can oversee the big thing, but I want them at the micro level to manage this silo, and I want them to manage all the content. We'll create the content, but we need them to manage engagement, post-approval, role upgrades if they're not happening automatically, reporting issues to us. And I don't want, as an admin, to see that until I need to.
Yeah, I think that would be a great use of a coordinator role, and one where we should get a lot more specific as to, right, like you mentioned, post-approval, role, like changing roles, etc. Right? Like, I think something that I can do after this call is send everybody this document, and I'll create like maybe like columns for each organization, for each of your organizations, and you can make your comments and say like what you would want a coordinator role to do as it differs from admin role. And then, yeah, and we can go from there.
Do other chapters currently have other people managing their teams on the platform other than the admin right now?
We don't currently. We're thinking about it. We have a student alumni advisory board that has expressed interest in managing some chapters. And so we were thinking about having like student alumni advisors as coordinators managing like specific areas within the United States. Like one would be the like Southeastern manager and things like that. But that is feeling like maybe it will be more of the like group pathways thing that you guys were talking about, because like they also want to have a discussion all together, and they also want to do all of those things and like see events all together and things like that. So yeah, I think that it will be more so group pathways work than specifically having a coordinator for it.
That's a good idea. I mean, Hannah and Ellie, you guys, your chapter advisors do a lot of that management, not managing the platform for them, but a lot of that support, right? And gathering their tasks and reports. And
yeah, advisors for us are really more like doing individual mentoring. So we don't want or need them to be doing anything on the marketplace to like approve actions. Yeah.
Got it.
They're more like relationship builders.
Nice. That's great. Well, I want to just acknowledge that we're at time. Is that right? Are we at time?
I think it was technically an hour long, maybe.
Oh, okay. Well, we can keep,
I don't actually
keep going. Yes, you're right. We can keep going. We can keep going.
Well, I only really had one more question that maybe people like would want to take some time and think about, and we could send out an email. I was wondering if people had any interest in making a call like this more regular, so that like as updates come out on the platform, we can like talk about how we're using them and sort of just continuously have this conversation of like what works best for people and share ideas. I don't really have an idea in mind of how often that would be or like in what capacity, but I just wanted to gauge people's interest in that.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea, and maybe even to have, because there's office hours about once a month, but I think it could be beneficial to have a like basically a focused sharing time for chapter-based programs, just because there's so much in common. And yeah, I think there's a lot, at least for me, that yeah, it's just a good opportunity to keep having focused feedback also on how to best continue to build this tool, how to best use it, right? Like, so I don't know how everybody else feels about that. If like maybe something once a month could be feasible. I know everybody's really busy.
Yeah, I'd be interested in doing something like this again in a few, like not every month, because I think that's a little bit too much time. But if we were going to do it again, I think what would be helpful is to either do some sort of like tour of each other's platforms to see like in practice what a specific organization is doing, or to to share a list of questions ahead of time that people can like respond to in advance, so that we can like spend the time that we actually have together really having more of a discussion. Yeah,
Absolutely.
maybe like a Google Doc or something.
Great idea.
Has anybody used events on your platform to have conversations with chapters? We're not using the event feature yet, but are you guys using event features to bring people together the way that we have the crew dashboard that like sent out events and hosting things through the platform? I mean, I know it's just scheduling an event that you would just have like a Zoom call, but using that as a way instead of doing, you know, a Google Hangout or something. I'm just like brainstorming in my head ways to like get people to come back to the platform more, because like once they're done with their training, they're out of there.
I think the fellowships are the programs that do that a lot more, because as a part of, we're serving maybe like 6 fellowships, and they have like once a month, like some kind of lesson where everybody comes together, and they have office hours once a week, and they have one-on-one mentoring, and they schedule all of that through the platform. So I've seen that more with fellowships than with chapter programs.
I like the idea of office hours. Like if I just make myself available once a week, anybody that wants to come in, we can walk through resources. And
yeah, definitely a good way to streamline support and help build those like relationship touch points. I think like, who was it? Ellie or Hannah, you were explaining with your advisors that so much of it is also just building relationship and having that personal touch with members of the program. So yeah, that's a good way to do it. I did like that thought of having everybody showcasing their platform and giving everyone some time to just go through it, share how they use it, what are the use cases, what tracks they have. Maybe we can have a call focused on that and get people to sign up in advance to share, right? Like who wants to share, and see if that should be split up into 1 or 2 calls. I like the question too or the idea of having questions shared ahead of time. I'm almost wondering if like we could play with the idea of having like in the platform, like in the crew tutorials support platform, like a track for chapter-based programs where we could have like, but I'm recording this call, maybe we have like, recordings of whenever we have these calls, and maybe that can be also a place where we can start having those, even asking questions to each other, even in the middle of meetings or something like that. Maybe Melody, we can talk more about how we would want to move this forward and continue the conversation on calls and maybe offline too. Great. Well, thank you guys. Does anybody else have anything else you'd like to add or any other questions you'd like to ask the group?
Nope.
Great. Well, thanks again.
Organizing Melody.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for coming and talking.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll have a fun weekend.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks again.